If you want to pass your teams to death on FM24, then I have the tactic for you. I have got 3 variants of my 4-2-3-1 that I have been doing with my Malaga save. As you can see, we have just finished the season, 87 points, league champions. We are ranked first for all of these. Expected goals per game, expected goals against per game, conceded the least, fouls against as well, average possession 64% with a 91 pass completion, 19 clean sheets, and dribbles per game nearly 16, all ranked first in the league. It has been a superb season, and we have controlled games. So if you're wanting to really control games, really good but structure at the back in terms of out of possession stuff and in possession as well, really good rest defense, then I've got 3 variants to show you today. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, so there is a couple of variants with this that I'm going to speak about. We started with this one, Malaga 1. We have also got Malaga 2, which is the one that we played with the most during the season. And finally, Malaga 5, there it is, that we used to chase a game in the last game of the season to win the cup against Deportivo La Coruña. It worked tremendously well. Now, one thing that is a mainstay is a lot of the roles, including this combination here of complete wingback on attack and AP on support. It is by far my favourite combination so far of FM24. And interesting, you'll also notice there is a Trequartista. Now, obviously, I'm Trequinho, Trequartista, I've had a million one names. But basically, I've kind of pushed it on myself for FM24 to play with a Trequartista. Now, you don't have to do that. I do. And it's worked really well in the tactic. They get around, they float, they get into lovely little pockets, especially when you're doing this short, slow tempo. We're looking to find little spaces between midfield and defensive lines, maybe in between fullbacks and centre-halves. He sometimes comes really deep. He sometimes goes into these pockets, and the next minute he's in the box trying to score a tap-in. So really good at just roaming around and getting on the ball. Obviously, you need to dominate the play, and that's what I've set up with these tactics. Now, these tactics are available for my patrons. Link down in the description. £3 a month, supports the channel, and you get weekly tactic downloads, and you get about 6 or 7 tactics just this week because it is tactics week on the channel. Go check it out. Thank you very much. Don't worry if you're not. I'm going to go through all the player instructions for all the tactics so you can copy them in yourself. The start of the save, I wanted to dominate the ball. I was adamant that I wanted to dominate the ball, and I started this on my FM23 save. Go ahead, Eagles. We did it for a couple of seasons, then I bottled it and went to the 4-3-3, just kicking the ball, getting pacey boys out wide. And this season, I've decided to stick with it and just tweak tactics. So that's why we've got 3 variants to show you today. Basically, what we've been looking at is trying to create some central overloads in possession. We're playing fairly narrow, as you can see, and then having a little bit of pace in certain areas. So on this left-hand side, because we have Dani Sanchez, who is quite an aggressive fullback, the idea was that he would push around as much as possible and then allowing the AP to drift into these areas. We've got the overlap on, so we're really forcing it down on this left-hand side. And then the right side, because we've got that there, and Sanchez constantly moving up into the attacking third, I thought we needed a little bit of sort of like a solidity at the back. So we have been playing with an inverted fullback in defence on the right-hand side. Now, the tactic did actually start. So this is the first one. Anchor and roaming playmaker with a winger, a Treq, and an AP and a poacher. The poacher's key, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We started with this, and then I just found we were a little bit passive and a little bit too defensive, bearing in mind that you're going to have 3 pretty much staying back there at all times, and then you're going to have an anchor, and I just thought having a 3-1 was a little bit overkill, especially when we're dominating the ball. I wanted to get an extra player forward. So the flip side of that was then to get a deep line playmaker in, still play a deep line playmaker, but then go with a volante as well. Because we've got a few static players in these areas in terms of the Trequartista and the AP, I wanted that third man run. And I did think with the winger staying out wide, that then the volante would then go into these areas. And that's been our go-to tactic for the majority of the season. So I'm going to go through the rules now. So Herrera, sweeper keeper on defend, no play instructions. Murillo as well, right back, pretty much a right centre-back, no play instructions. Wande and Diarra, both central defenders on defenders. It's interesting that we actually see some of the defenders, when you dominate the ball, Diarra, even though he's on defenders, been getting into these areas and just helping us recycle the ball. Complete wing-back on attack, no play instructions. Deep lying playmaker on defend. That has changed sometimes. When I know we're coming up a really a passive low block, we've gone that immediately to a register, just so we've got a little bit of creativity in there, can dribble a little bit as well, rather than having that complete defensive midfielder who's just going to sit and kind of recycle possession. On the right-hand side, giving us the width, winger on attack. Treq, more direct passes, just so we can get him to be a little bit more clinical and a little bit more aggressive in terms of, we play pretty nice patterns all the way through up the pitch, really patient in build-up. But when we get into here, I want us to be direct and fire these passes in. So that's why he is on direct. It did work early on in the season. We were trying to get better output in terms of goals and assists from our Treq, and that just seemed to help. On this left-hand side, AP on support with the instruction of sit narrow, because we want him to come into this area here, and I'll show you some clips at the end. And then Poacher, basically because we've got so much in build-up. We've got a winger, we've got wide players, we've got players in the half spaces with this Volante, the AP, we've got the Treq dropping off, we've got maybe a register and a deep line playmaker. We just need someone to stand in the penalty box and score goals. And Robert Fernandez, he is leaving me, by the way, at the end of the season, but has done really well. 31 goals with an XG of 24. Really good finisher. Look, he doesn't need pace. The Poacher does ask for acceleration and stuff, but if you're playing in this system, you don't need it. You don't need it at all. I think the Poacher actually just asks for acceleration. You just need someone. For me, there need to be a good physical presence, good finisher, good header, because the amount of goals he scored from tap-ins, low-cut crosses. I imagine Sanchez's 10 assists, at least 8 would have they been into Robert Sanchez in terms of low crosses and then balls into the box that he's heading down. That would be my Poacher profile. Decent height, decent heading, decent finishing. Away you go. Into the player instructions. Positive mentality, fairly narrow, because we want the players to be closer together. Pep Guardiola already said with his Manchester City side, he hates longer passes. He wants passes no more than sort of like 5-10 metres, because longer the passes, the more chance of them going wrong, difficult to execute, and more chance of obviously other teams coming in and intercepting. We also then are quite condensed together, so then if we lose possession of the ball, we've got a good counter press sort of like set up immediately to try and win that ball back. On the left-hand side, we've got overlap on, because we're trying to hold up play until that left wing back can get round and deliver some quality into the box, and obviously play out of defence. Much shorter passing directness, because we want them passes to be as small as possible, and we want to dominate the ball and be as safe as possible with slightly lower tempo. I think if you push it up, I do tweak it when we need to, when we're chasing games a little bit, but generally to get control of a game, bring that tempo down, and you'll help just bring up them possession numbers, get your team on the ball. We've done quite well with injuries this season, not many injuries, and also not much in terms of fitness issues during games, because, as you can see, for a tactic, go and have a look at your tactic, what you're rocking with right now. What's your intensity like? Our intensity is really low, because we're keeping the ball and we're making the other team work and run. Be more expressive. We want those rotations. We want to be really clever in that attacking third. Allow them Trequartistas, the Volante, the Register, the AP. We've even done, actually, I forgot to mention, at times when we've been dominating, we've been changing that one day into a libero just on defend. Just so then when he goes up there, the Volante, we then get that CD into the libero and he goes and sits in there. So we have a little bit of a sort of like a 2-3, what would it be? A 2-3-5 in build-up rather than a 3-2-5 in build-up. In transition, counter-press, no counter-attacking on, because I want us to be patient. I'm asking the goalkeeper as well to slow it down. Obviously, when we're chasing games, we take that off. The last 10-15 minutes, we ask him to distribute a little bit quicker, but I want us to be patient. We're distributing as well to the fullbacks and the centre-halves and taking short kicks. Out of possession, high press, higher line. We may even go up a little bit higher. I've not needed to, because we've been that comfortable in possession and we've had more of the ball. We may, because we've won the league and going into sort of like the second tier, La Liga 2 next year, we might even put that up to much higher, just so we can try and get that ball back, because I imagine we're going to have more turnovers. And then trap outside. We're going to funnel the play to one side of the pitch. We're going to be really narrow as well and try and win that ball back. And then more often trigger press. Now, the variation that we had for the last game of the season was this one, where we went a little bit daft. By all means, you're free to change these roles. What I would recommend is actually having 2 APs in here and just have that as an attacking midfielder. 2 APs with the instruction of sit narrow on, and then we've got 2 complete wing backs scooting round. We've got the half-back now, who's going to come into these areas here. So you're still building up with your three. And it just turned the game for us. So something that we're going to look at when we're, when you have them games, we do have them games because we're so patient and so... at times it even gives you that sort of like that Graham Potter feel at Brighton where there was so much in terms of ball possession and good movements and good rotations, but that killer instinct we just sometimes lacked. So that, for us, next year when we're at that higher level, is just going to be a little bit of a flip in terms of something a little bit different. Having the wide players, both wide fullbacks getting round and overlapping. All the instructions are the same. I would recommend potentially doing an overlap right on that right-hand side. Now we've got him going round as well. All right, let's go and have a look at some clips and see how it looks. In particular, this here with Dani Sanchez and Dione or Molina on that left-hand side as the AP on support. Okay, so first highlight, Dani Sanchez is the goal scorer, but I'm just going to show you Zungia is playing as an AP in that wide left position. As you can see, he's in really narrow. And what we're tending to do is a lot of the time, we're sucking and we're making the opponents be really narrow. As you can see, they've literally got everyone on that side of the pitch. They've literally just got one here. Laurent, their right fullback, is the only guy who's on this side. He's now got a decision. Because Zungia's gone in there, my AP's gone in there. Does he follow him? Or does he allow my playmaker, my most creative player, to have space? Or does he watch out for this fullback who is definitely going to go beyond? And what we get is, if I just highlight them two, as the player comes in, we just move it across, and we get this all the time. He waits, and then Sanchez is so good, so direct. Obviously, you need this left-hand side to be a good... My right-sided defender is pretty much like the Manchester City kind of centre-half types there. He's a centre-half that can do a really good job at right-back. So we're talking like an Akanji, John Stones, Kyle Walker kind of defender. Whereas the left-hand side, we've got an Alphonso Davies, basically. So a really good goal. And then this one, Molina, he's our sort of like our first choice advanced playmaker. And then down here, we've got Sanchez as well. So these two combining again. Molina's eventually going to be the goal scorer. We get the ball back. And we play. We kind of lose it a little bit here with our poacher. But it just shows you that the poacher does look. He's come in, he's tried to get involved. He doesn't just stay and do absolutely nothing. So just something to be aware of when you select that poacher. There's my Treq, like roaming round, picking up spares. Finding Sanchez. Once again, Molina's tucked in, and it just gives us that space for that left fullback to get round. A low cut cross. We get loads of these cutbacks. Treq finding space. All they do is find space. Now, sometimes the match ratings, the average ratings, will not give you a true indication of how they are. So what I've been doing is basically clicking him. Little trick as well. If you press Control, you can click as many players as you want, so you can watch them. So what I've been doing is just watching the movements of these three players in particular working together. And he's so clever. Obviously you need good technical players for them two roles. Once again, sucking the play in, the Sanchez, the fullback, getting round the back. Absolutely wonderful. And here we go again. People involved. Sanchez, Molina, my AP, combining, getting the overlapping. If I just pause it, there's my Treq said. They don't always get the best average ratings, but just watch, just look and watch the movements that they make, either creating space for others or getting in the ball in key areas. We get a nice little back heel. He's quite high at the moment, and then he's in. And what we get is a nice balance. These three players here, one, that's the poacher, obviously attack. Volante on attack, Sanyali. And also Kevin, Juan Fernandez, but it would be normally Kevin, winger on attack. What they're doing is going really deep into the area, and it's just allowing this little space for players such as Dani Sanchez. He scored a couple of goals from the edge of the area. Dione as well, Treq working, and more importantly, Molina. Look how much space he's got then to find his slot and to pass it in. I think having those three players on attack just forces the defenders back and just allows a little bit of space for those three magic men to work in. And then this was actually the first game we played with a Volante. And as you can see, there he is. He's so high. Should we go back another 10 seconds? See the movements and watch the movement as he goes. So look at him. He's on a Volante on attack, pretty much playing as a number 10 there. Getting in these half spaces again. Once again, we're trying to suck all the play in so we potentially get these the winger out on that right-hand side. And obviously we've spoke about Sanchez on this left-hand side, my fullback. But as you can see, he's patient. There's my central defender on defend as well, acting like he's a libero. We've lost him. He's not one for possession. Like, the idea is that we get a late run from him or something. And what he's doing is, once again, he's causing problems. He's causing problems. He's giving something for the fullback, the left midfielders to think about. And then he starts, and obviously he gets right into the area at times. Look, he's right in there as like a third man to get in there with the winger. You know, because we've got the creativity on this left-hand side with a complete wing-back, the AP and the Treq. We need to get bodies into the box. And I think changing that role from a roaming playmaker to a volante has been absolutely key. And as you can see, he's right in. Look at him. He's poaching. He's absolutely poaching. That was a massive change for us. And that as well, that game, 74% of the ball. A lot of the time as well, teams have not been having many shots against us. We've absolutely, I think sometimes you can get a little bit lucky in terms of XG and stuff, but we've absolutely dominated. So it's about controlling games and passing teams to death rather than going out and gegenpressing your way to success. Try something different. Go and plug it in. Lower tempo, pass, be patient, and then when you score a goal, they're generally beautiful goals. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Check out the rest of the content on the channel. Tomorrow is Fernando Diniz, Fluminense tactic, followed by Thursday's tactic, Bielsa's Uruguay. All right, thank you very much for watching. Check out the Patreon. See you later.